Hi there, and welcome once again to The Tired Scientist. I'm truly happy you've joined, no matter where you're tuning in, whether it's a snug room in the countryside, a city apartment, or maybe under the night sky somewhere in between. I'd honestly love to hear where you're watching from and what the current hour is. Drop it in the comments. It's always intriguing to see how this tiny channel drifts through time zones like a fleeting memory. Before we get started, if you like slow, thoughtful dives into science and the odd marvels of nature, please consider liking this video or hitting subscribe. It really helps keep everything running and my brain working, albeit at a snail's pace. Tonight's journey is about something that, quite literally, shapes all that we perceive: human vision. From the structure of the eye itself to the strange illusions our brains conjure from what they receive, vision is far more than a sense. It's a dialogue between illumination and awareness. I truly hope this video helps you relax, maybe even helps you sleep, but fair warning, if it keeps you awake from curiosity, at least you'll be a little wiser. A soft heads up before we start. This video is meant purely for learning and entertainment. It doesn't aim to treat, diagnose, or provide health advice. If you're worried about your vision, consult a licensed medical expert. So go ahead, take a calming breath, ease your posture, maybe turn the lights low, and let's gently explore the realm of sight. It started with a blob, not the flashiest origin, perhaps, but somewhere deep in the ancient seas, a lone cell stirred when it sensed light. That twitch wasn't dramatic or earth-shattering, but it sparked something deeply important. That tiny, flickering reaction marked the very origin of what we now call vision. This was billions of years ago, when life was still figuring out how to squirm. At that point, light meant a chance to live. If you sensed brightness, you could guess the sun's location, and if you knew where the sun was, you'd likely know which way was up, meaning you had a better shot at avoiding being eaten. As always, evolution had thoughts about that. Those early, light-sensitive cells didn't register shapes or colors. No silhouettes or movement, just brightness. But even that small edge was powerful. From there, nature, ever the patient, unpredictable inventor, kept testing. Across countless millennia, she took her time. Patches of light-detecting tissue became dips, dips morphed into bowls, and bowls eventually became sealed chambers with narrow openings, like early pinhole cameras. The resulting image was fuzzy, not clear, kind of like trying to watch a show through a potato. Vague but better than darkness. But just clear enough to understand. In time, certain innovative invertebrate ancestors developed something even more remarkable: a see-through layer over the eye's opening, which later transformed into a lens, and with a lens, you can bend light. Suddenly, instead of merely sensing brightness or fuzzy outlines, organisms could make out finer details. They could distinguish between a boulder and a crab, which determined who ate and who got eaten. This step toward enhanced vision occurred during a particularly wild period on Earth called the Cambrian explosion. Approximately 540 million years ago, life entered a chaotic, creative phase. Animals developed new body types, bizarre appendages, wild protections, and yes, sharper vision. Why such a race for better eyesight? Simple. Once some could spot others, everyone had to keep up. Being visible to a predator with strong vision meant adapting quickly, either by hiding better, fleeing faster, or watching back. Hunters refined their eyes to catch targets, while prey developed disguises, illusions, and sometimes even superior sight. It became a biological showdown like chess, only no one knew the rules and every player had talents. To understand how massive this jump was, imagine life without eyesight as a game of tag in pitch blackness, until someone switches on a torch. The entire strategy shifts. Those who change survive, those who don't become history. And it wasn't just one solution for sight that appeared. Evolution, with all the creativity of a child let loose with glue and glitter in a toolbox, tested many concepts. For instance, compound eyes, like those in bugs, are made from thousands of mini lenses called ommatidia. Each segment grabs a fragment of reality, combining into a mosaic view, perfect for sensing motion, not so much for movies. Then there are camera-style eyes like ours, using one lens to direct light onto a retina. This type emerged independently across various groups, including cephalopods like squids and octopuses. Yes, octopuses not only boast intelligent minds and amazing disguise skills, but also possess brilliant eyesight. Actually, their visual organs surpass ours in certain aspects. While human eyes have a blind zone because the optic nerve enters from the front, octopus eyes avoid this. Their optic nerves attach from the back, meaning no blind area. They basically received nature's premium model. We got the early draft. Still, don't feel cheated, our vision system is a marvel in itself. Each human retina contains about 120 million rods and 6 million cones. That's 120 million light-sensitive cells tracking brightness, motion, and shadows. Plus an extra 6 million managing color and precision, like a private squad guarding your toes from furniture. Here's a cool tangent. Some species can detect wavelengths that our brains can't process. Bees, for instance, can see ultraviolet rays, making flowers appear to glow with hidden signs drawn in nectar. Certain snakes, like pit vipers, can sense infrared radiation, letting them spot warm-blooded prey. And then there's the mantis shrimp, the mythic underwater boxer. They perceive polarized light and possess up to 16 varieties of photoreceptors. Compared to our modest trio, they're practically underwater rainbow warriors. Meanwhile, humans evolved to prioritize a different trait: crispness over spectrum range. Can't perceive ultraviolet or infrared wavelengths, but our ability to distinguish colors is surprisingly advanced among mammals. That's because our evolutionary roots trace back to life in the trees, where identifying ripe fruit was vital. Being able to pick out a bright red berry hidden in a canopy of green foliage could mean eating well or going hungry. Evolution tends to reward those who search for snacks. Naturally, eyes didn't develop in isolation. As eyesight sharpened, brains needed to become smarter to understand what was being seen. After all, what good is high-definition vision if the brain can't interpret the image? So, as visual systems grew more sophisticated, so did mental capacity, especially in areas dedicated to visual decoding. In humans, nearly 1/3 of the brain's cortex plays a role in sight. In a way, you could describe the brain as a mobile visual processor. So, from primitive light-reactive cells to the complex, color-sensitive eyes taking in this sentence right now, vision has taken a long, winding route. And what makes this evolution even more remarkable is that it didn't happen just once. It occurred independently in more than 40 separate evolutionary branches. It's as if nature had a favorite invention and kept revisiting the blueprint. There's something strangely reassuring about that life, when offered the opportunity, so often decides to see. Not to capture every detail, but just enough to make sense of the world. To journey through it. To follow the light. So next time you blink or try to focus on something far away, remember you are the product of eons of organic curiosity. You are a descendant of glowing seas, coral reefs, and dim woodland paths. A continuation of life's spiral that chose not to fear darkness but to examine it. And with that, maybe your own eyes are beginning to feel heavy, and that's completely fine. Even our finest organs need rest eventually. So let's pause and acknowledge the wonderful eye, those two jelly-like orbs, roughly the size of ping-pong balls, snugly nestled in the bony hollows of your face. They may not seem all that stunning by appearance, more like peeled grapes than shimmering masterpieces. But don't be fooled. They're among the body's most intricate creations. And there's quite a bit happening inside. So, how does an eye actually function? Let's start right at the surface, where light makes its first contact. That outer layer is the cornea, a clear, dome-shaped shield covering the eye's front. Its job is to bend the light as it enters. In fact, this structure handles the majority of focusing. Almost 2/3 of your eye's total focusing ability comes from this curved, see-through layer. Once through the cornea, light enters a chamber filled with fluid. This small pocket is known as the anterior chamber and holds a substance called aqueous humor. It's not just for show. This fluid helps regulate eye pressure, nourishes internal structures, and keeps everything balanced. Imagine it like a relaxing soak, but for your sight. Next in line is the iris, that colored ring in your eye, the one that earns compliments at social events. Blue, green, brown, hazel, all of it comes down to pigment and muscle. The iris functions as a circular band of muscle that controls the size of the center opening. The pupil. In bright settings, the pupil gets smaller to limit light intake. In darkness, it grows larger to let more light enter. This adjustment happens automatically, much like a camera altering its lens aperture. Afterward, the light travels through the lens, a transparent, bendable structure positioned just behind the pupil. This lens fine-tunes your vision, allowing you to shift from reading a novel to eyeing a distant pigeon behaving suspiciously. The lens alters its shape using a muscular ring called the ciliary body. As these muscles tighten or loosen, the lens bulges or flattens accordingly. This ability is called accommodation, not to be mistaken for hotel check-ins. It simply refers to the adjustment of visual focus. Then, the light passes through the vitreous humor, a thick, jelly-like substance that occupies the eye's largest internal chamber. This gel maintains the eye's shape and holds everything in its place. Fun fact, what you're seeing through is mostly water, over 99% to be exact. It's as if your brain is housed in a fish tank, gazing outward through twin liquid-filled windows. Finally, the light reaches the rear inner surface of the eye, the retina. And here's where the real magic begins. The retina is a slim sheet of tissue loaded with photoreceptor cells that sense incoming light and begin translating it into messages the brain can decode. There are two principal categories of these light sensors, rods and cones. You might think of them as the night shift and the day shift of vision. Rods are ultra-sensitive, each eye contains about 120 million of them. They function best in dim surroundings and enable night vision. They can't detect color, but they're fantastic at identifying movement and outlines when it's dark. This is why things appear grayish during dusk. It's rod time. Cones, in contrast, handle color perception. You've got around 6 million cones per eye, separated into 3 types, each attuned to a specific color range. Red, green, and blue, the cones specialize in those bands of the spectrum. They're densely packed in the retina's center, especially in a tiny pit called the fovea. This is where your vision becomes most detailed and vivid. Whenever you focus directly on something, your fovea takes over, delivering sharp, colorful visuals. It's important to mention that there's one spot on your retina lacking photoreceptors altogether. Where the optic nerve exits the eye, this creates a blind spot. You don't notice it, though, because your brain cleverly fills in the blanks, blending the scenes seamlessly. Like a magician who's completely convinced of their trick. And now, the optic nerve, a thick bundle of over 1 million fibers. It transmits every bit of electrical data from your retina straight into your brain. Where the brain will decode them into recognizable visuals, this is the point where your vision stops being about brightness and becomes something deeper, understanding. Let's take a brief pause to marvel at how absurd, in the most wonderful sense, this whole process really is. Your eyes collect photons, minuscule light particles that have traveled unimaginable distances through the universe. Bend them, concentrate them, channel them through biological gels, transform them into electrical impulses, and pass them off to a soft chunk of brain tissue, which then converts all of that into sunsets, faces, and warning signs. Not too shabby for a couple of moist spheres. And we've yet to mention the entire backstage crew that keeps these orbs operational. Take eyelids, for instance. They seem pretty basic, right? But they do much more than just blink flirtatiously or block out terrible films. They serve like wiper blades, spreading moisture over the eye's surface to keep it hydrated and clear. Every blink helps guard your vision against dust, particles, and sudden finger jabs. You blink between 15 to 20 times each minute, totaling close to 28,000 times daily, an impressive amount of upkeep. And as for tears, they're far more than liquid sadness. Tears consist of a balanced mix of water, oils, mucus, and specialized enzymes. They lubricate the eye, fend off infection, and keep your cornea safe. There are actually 3 distinct categories of tears: basal, those routine ones; reflex, triggered by irritants like onions; and emotional, the kind that roll down during moving films or heartfelt animal reunions. Then we have the extraocular muscles, a squad of 6 compact yet powerful fibers attached to every eye. They control direction, allowing your gaze to follow motion, skim text, or dramatically roll when someone insists Pluto isn't a planet. They're astonishingly accurate. Your eyes can change direction or focal point almost instantly, usually moving in perfect sync. When they don't, that's when conditions like strabismus or misalignment appear. We should also mention the sclera, the white region of your eye. Far from being decorative, it reinforces shape and offers protection. Oddly enough, humans are among the few species with easily seen sclera. Some scientists believe this plays a role in silent communication, helping others detect where we're looking, almost like built-in subtitles for social interaction. So next time you face the mirror and meet your own gaze, remember you're witnessing the product of endless evolutionary tweaks and a stunning collaboration of tissues, fluids, and microscopic parts working in quiet precision. From the cornea bending light at the front, to the retina recording it at the back, to the brain turning it into something you can understand, your eyes function like a finely tuned biological orchestra. And even if they aren't flawless, nearsighted, farsighted, floaters and all, they remain incredibly effective instruments. Truthfully, we don't always appreciate our eyesight enough. We rely on them constantly, endlessly, and almost always without realizing. They serve as our main gateway to the environment, our quickest means of gathering data, and one of our core ways of engaging with others. So as you recline and feel your eyelids growing heavier, it's quite something to reflect on. Even as they shut, your eyes continue operating quietly in the background, resting, yes, but ever alert for the next glimmer of light. Gently close your eyes now, not tightly, just enough to dim the surroundings. In that soft shadow, their mechanical task is done. The lens bent the light, the retina detected it, the optic nerve relayed the signal. But what happens after that? How do those signals transform into the experience of vision? Where does the act of seeing truly take place? Surprisingly, the answer lies outside the eyes entirely. Sight, as we understand it, actually unfolds inside the brain. Your eyes collect light and convert it into electric messages, but the job of stitching those signals into a detailed, animated, colorful understanding of your surroundings belongs to the brain. Specifically, the part known as the visual cortex, located in the occipital lobe, near the back of your skull. So, in a wonderfully poetic twist, you see, using the part of your brain that rests against your pillow when lying flat. Let's walk through this incredible inner journey step by step. When light strikes the photoreceptors, those rods and cones, in the retina, it's converted into electrical signals. These impulses move through the optic nerve, a thick cable made of over 1 million individual fibers. These fibers leave the rear of the eye and move toward the brain, but here's where it gets especially fascinating. The optic nerves from both eyes converge at a place called the optic chiasm, where they partially cross over. This crossing isn't just decorative, it's crucial. The left sides of your visual fields, from both eyes, are directed to the right hemisphere of the brain, while the right halves are routed to the left side of the brain. This crossover guarantees that each hemisphere receives a complete, merged view of the scene ahead. Imagine it like a photon traffic circle, guiding light signals with surprising elegance. From the chiasm, the impulses travel down the optic tract to a key relay hub buried deep in the brain, the lateral geniculate nucleus, or LGN. This structure is part of the thalamus, the brain's internal communication desk. The LGN sorts, sharpens, and forwards the visual input to the next destination. The primary visual cortex, also called V1, which sits at the very rear of your head. And it's here, finally, that vision truly begins to emerge. But even in this region, the process is anything but basic. The visual cortex is not one giant all-purpose processor. It's more like a network of dedicated zones. each tuned to decode different elements of what you see: outlines, motion, distance, hues, and even higher-level things like direction or recognizing familiar faces. Just imagine for a moment, picture your brain rapidly solving a jigsaw puzzle, but with shifting pieces, no clear edges, and no box for guidance. Every tiny moment, your brain is stitching together countless bits into a complete image. A tree swaying gently, candlelight flickering, or your cat narrowing her eyes in quiet judgment from across the room. What's truly remarkable is that your brain doesn't just analyze what's visible, it also predicts. The visual system isn't entirely reactive, it's proactive. Drawing on memory, environment, and input from other senses like hearing and touch, your brain fills blanks and makes educated guesses about what you're seeing. This explains why you can spot a blurry friend from afar or misread a sentence at first glance. A classic example of this forecasting mechanism is the blind spot, the small area on your retina where the optic nerve exits and where no light-sensitive cells exist. In theory, there's zero visual data from this part of each eye. Yet you don't notice any gaps. Your brain simply patches over the void using nearby details. It's like the brain's version of making up part of an answer on a test and hoping no one checks. This predictive power also explains how we're easily tricked by optical illusions. When presented with confusing or uncertain images, the brain takes its best guess. And occasionally, that guess misses the mark. But that's not a design flaw, it's intentional. The brain is trying to conserve energy and process faster, offering the most likely result instead of recalculating every visual detail again and again. Now let's dig deeper. After the primary visual cortex analyzes the basics, edges, color contrast, outlines, it hands off the job to additional visual centers like V2, V3, and others, where things get more advanced. These secondary areas each take on specific responsibilities. Some identify forms or objects, others decode movement or depth, and some zones are dedicated to recognizing faces. In fact, there's a brain region entirely focused on facial detection, the fusiform face area, which explains your skill at spotting familiar faces. And also why certain animated characters with lifelike eyes can make you feel weird. After that, the brain divides the information into two primary streams: the ventral pathway, known as the what stream, and the dorsal pathway, the where stream. The ventral stream runs into the temporal lobe and manages object identification. What exactly am I seeing? A banana, a paperclip, a napping puppy, or just a wrinkled blanket? This route deals with shape, hue, and recognition. Meanwhile, the dorsal stream moves toward the parietal region and oversees spatial positioning and motion. Where's the object located? How quickly is it moving? Am I about to bump into it? This system acts like your visual navigation and crash prevention assistant. Together, these two pathways offer a full picture of your surroundings. You instantly recognize what things are and where they're situated, usually without any conscious thought. But now we reach the truly intriguing part. Damage to specific regions in this visual network can lead to rare and puzzling conditions. Take, for example, visual agnosia. Individuals with this issue may see perfectly clearly yet fail to identify common items. They can describe an object's shape or color but can't tell you if it's a toothbrush or a house key. The visual input reaches the brain, the eyes are working fine, and yet the section responsible for interpretation breaks down. Or consider blindsight, an unusual phenomenon where someone with a damaged primary visual cortex believes they're blind. Yet, surprisingly, they can still react to visual cues. They avoid furniture, sense movement direction, even respond to facial expressions, all without realizing it consciously. It's as though their brain can perceive, even if they can't. This reveals something extraordinary. A large portion of seeing happens beyond your awareness. Your brain is always hard at work, scanning, sorting, anticipating, before it hands over a finished visual summary to your awareness. Imagine an internal assistant who reviews all your images, removes the poor ones, adds enhancements, and then hands you only the best versions. And although we often view sight as purely factual, it's deeply shaped by feelings, attention, and mindset. Your emotional state can affect what you think you're seeing, People in good moods are more likely to interpret unclear facial expressions as happy, and the opposite is also true. Stress causes tunnel vision, while calmness broadens your field of view. Even memory plays a role in how we see. You're not experiencing each second from scratch. Your brain uses past experiences to weave a seamless narrative, filling empty spots and smoothing out transitions, like editing a film to mask scene cuts. So the next time you open your eyes in the morning and take in the details of your space, remember, you're not simply observing light reflecting off surfaces. You're experiencing a vast, ongoing mental construction happening in your head. A private cinematic production, complete with visual effects, creative tweaks, and the occasional inconsistency. What makes this system so beautiful isn't just its complexity, it's the quiet efficiency with which it works. Nearly flawless, nearly always without requiring your focus. Even in sleep, some parts remain active, sorting dreams, preserving memories, and gently reshaping your sense of the world. So tonight, as your eyelids grow heavy and darkness returns, remember that vision includes more than eyesight. It blends memory, perception, and creativity into one. Your ability to see isn't just about what meets the eye, it's how you process meaning. Now picture waking tomorrow with one of your senses gone. Which one would you miss most? If you're like most people, you'd likely choose vision. Again and again in surveys, people rank sight as the most precious of all the senses. The sense people least want to lose is vision, and it's easy to see why. Our world today is overflowing with visual input. From reading street signs and steering vehicles to endlessly scrolling glowing screens packed with emails and cats. Our daily lives are built around what our eyes absorb. But why are we so dependent on vision? Is it just what we're used to, or does something more fundamental drive this reliance? Something embedded deep in our brain's blueprint and humanity's evolutionary path? For starters, humans are built to be visual beings. About 30% of the brain's cortex is dedicated to handling visual tasks. Nearly 1/3 of your mental real estate devoted solely to decoding light. For comparison, only around 8% deals with touch, and a mere 2% is assigned to hearing. In simple terms, evolution went all in on making us see well. And the logic is sound, in both meanings of the word. In nature, seeing danger before it sees you can be the key to survival. Is that just a dark patch in the grass or a crouched predator waiting? Should I eat that fruit? Or is it a toxic imposter in disguise? Vision lets you assess situations from afar, giving you time to dodge, plan, or often just bolt in the opposite direction. But today, sight does far more than protect us. In modern life, it's closely tied to how we relate to our surroundings and each other. Consider how we communicate. We tend to think speech or writing does most of the work. But much of human interaction is visual. Our expressions, hand signs, body stance, and eye movements all add meaning. These subtle signals carry emotion, intent, and nuance. Our brains are finely tuned to pick up on them, especially faces. So finely tuned, in fact, you can catch a tiny eyebrow raise or faint lip twitch, and immediately sense what someone feels. This sensitivity comes from the fusiform face area, the same specialized brain part we mentioned earlier, entirely focused on facial recognition. We're so wired for faces, we even see them where they don't exist. In toast, in passing clouds, or on your car's headlights if you look at them a certain way. This phenomenon, known as pareidolia, is your brain going into overdrive searching for people. Like that friend who swears they saw a celebrity, even when it's just a stranger in shades and a hoodie. Visual memory also explains our strong attachment to sight. You might forget names, events, or where you last put your wallet, but you'll remember visuals. Like an old photo, the sunlight at breakfast, or a childhood blanket's pattern. We store immense visual information and retrieve it with astonishing speed. Think about how fast you recognize people, places, or companies, just from color schemes or logos. It's as if your brain has its own private version of Google Images, minus the buffering. Then there's literacy, reading and writing. The rise of written language ranks among humanity's biggest breakthroughs, and it's fully visual. Every page, street sign, dinner menu, movie caption, all depend on recognizing symbols with our eyes. When you read this sentence, your vision system is sprinting behind the scenes, converting twisting lines into meaning in a flash. You likely don't even notice it anymore. But under the surface, your eyes race along the text, firing signals to your brain to decode symbols into words, then thoughts. It's a dance of light and neurons, and you perform it effortlessly. Our surroundings also reflect this visual emphasis. Just look at buildings, clothing, paintings, commercials, and films, all built with visual appeal in mind. We craft beauty for the eye. Color palettes, forms, and symmetry all matter. Because as visual beings, we're always watching, comparing, and judging by appearance. Even digital innovation caters to this. Touch interfaces, smiley icons, looping GIFs, visual data charts. The internet is a feast for the eyes. And the phrase, "a picture is worth 1,000 words," rings truer than ever. We breeze through photos much faster than we process written sentences. Vivid motion, bold color, sharp contrast, these grab us instantly. And algorithms are built to amplify what catches our gaze, because they know our eyes are loyal. Of course, this strong preference for sight leads to some unusual quirks. One is our habit of trusting visuals too much, a tendency called visual dominance. When we see one thing and hear another, we usually trust our eyes. A classic illustration of this is the McGurk effect, where what you see affects what you think you hear. It's proof that perception is often a group effort between your senses. And sometimes, vision acts like the pushy leader. Here's another fun twist. Ever notice how many non-visual ideas we describe using visual language? We say things like, "I see your point," or "look at this concept," or "let's bring that into the light." Sight is so central that we treat seeing as understanding. To see clearly often means to grasp fully. Our language reflects just how deeply sight is tied to thinking and being. But it's more than clarity or knowledge. Vision is emotional. Think of a glowing sunset, a favorite painting, or the expression on a loved one's face when they're proud of you. Remember how sunlight slips through tree branches or stars twinkle on a still night. These aren't just visual events, they stir something inside. And that's the key. Vision doesn't merely show you the world. It alters how you experience it. It tints memories, stirs feelings, and pulls your focus. It guides your hand when you reach for a companion. It's what sparks affection in a passing smile. It lets you recognize an old friend in a crowd after decades apart. So yes, sight is efficient. It's a practical tool. But it's also intimate and emotional. It shapes how we perceive beauty, threat, warmth, and even our sense of self. Of course, this heavy dependence on vision doesn't make the other senses any less vital. Not at all. Try eating your favorite meal while pinching your nose. It's suddenly dull. Or put on a blindfold and try moving through your day. And you'll quickly realize just how much you rely on sound, physical sensation, and your inner mental map. Still, for the majority of people, sight remains the core. It's the primary lens through which we witness our lives in motion. And with that perspective, it's no shock that we hold it in such high regard. Vision brings us facts, yes, but also beauty, safety, bonds, and happiness. It allows us to read, to steer, to work and play, to feel affection. It shows us the physical world. And perhaps more meaningfully, it helps us place ourselves within it. So as you rest now and let your eyelids slowly fall, know that your eyes, those small, gleaming orbs, have served you faithfully today. They've guided your path, helped you engage with others, and maybe, just maybe, helped you notice something lovely in your everyday life. Now it's their turn to relax. We often group our five senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, as if they each play an equal part in our experience. But truthfully, vision tends to dominate. It's the loudest guest at the dinner party of the senses, doing most of the talking, taking up the most space, and likely assuming it's in charge. But what if we hold it up against its quieter companions? Is vision truly the most essential, or just the flashiest? Take hearing, for example. It may not dazzle with visuals like sight does, but it's equally powerful. Your eyes only look forward, your ears provide full circle awareness. You hear from all directions, behind, beside, above, and below. No need to move your head. Hearing functions in complete darkness. You can't see a whisper, but you can hear one. It warns you in the night, helps you read emotion in speech, and soothes you with rustling trees or a gentle lullaby. It's also the one sense that never truly turns off. Even while you sleep, your ears keep listening, ready to alert you if something feels wrong. In fact, hearing is the first sense to develop before birth, and often the last to fade at life's end. It greets us when we arrive, and stays with us as we leave. Rather poetic, don't you think? Now consider touch, a sense we often overlook. Because it's always present, yet touch is absolutely essential. It lets us sense warmth, pain, texture, and pressure. It allows hugs, hand-holding, and tells us if our legs gone numb. Touch reveals if something is hot or cold, rough or smooth, sharp or soft. It's the very first sense we feel as babies, and among the most emotionally profound throughout our lifetime. Then there's smell, the quiet champion of the senses. Rarely discussed, but powerful in subtle, surprising ways. Aromas tap into memory and mood almost instantly, thanks to how the olfactory system connects directly to the brain's emotional centers, especially the amygdala and hippocampus. That's why just a hint of sunscreen, pine, or warm bread can instantly sweep you back to a specific moment in your past. You don't have to do anything. Your nose has already packed your bags and sent you on an emotional journey down memory lane. Smell also subtly influences attraction, even if we rarely acknowledge it. Like many species, humans respond to pheromones, chemical cues we detect unconsciously. We're constantly, silently, sniffing one another, in the most socially acceptable and unnoticed way. And then there's taste, the sense that keeps food exciting. Strongly linked to smell, taste brings us joy, alerts, and fulfillment. Bitter notes can signal toxins, while sweetness often points to high-energy, nourishing food. Evolution hardwired us to desire some tastes and reject others. So you can thank your prehistoric relatives for both your love of chocolate and your grimace at anything overly bitter. But here's the catch. While every sense is amazing by itself, they usually don't operate separately. The brain doesn't file them into neat folders. Instead, it blends them in a grand symphony of perception. This is called sensory integration. The brain merges data from all senses, sight, sound, touch, and more, to create a cohesive experience. Take biting into a fresh apple. You're not just tasting it. You also see the shine, feel the cool skin, hear the crisp bite, and smell the aroma. Remove even one of those, and the moment feels incomplete. A fun example of this blending is the McGurk effect. If someone says bar, but their lips move like far, your brain might hear far instead. Visual and auditory messages clash, and your mind stitches them together. It's a powerful illustration of how vision can override what we hear. But sight doesn't always get it right. In fact, sometimes vision's influence can disrupt accuracy. Like watching a film where the audio is slightly off from the picture. Even if the dialogue is perfectly clear, it still feels wrong. That's your brain struggling to bridge the gap. Turns out, your mind prefers a wrong but consistent story over a fragmented one. It's like a friend who makes up an ending rather than admit confusion. Another striking case of sensory crossover is synesthesia, a rare trait where one sense automatically sparks another. Those with synesthesia might see colors when hearing music, or link numbers with flavors. For example, 5 could taste minty, or the musical note C-sharp might appear yellow. While it may sound magical, synesthesia proves how flexible and intertwined our senses truly are. Those lines between them? Not as firm as you'd expect. Another fascinating case is sensory substitution, where one sense steps in for a lost one. This is common in people who are blind or visually impaired. The brain, always adapting, will reroute responsibilities. The region usually devoted to sight may start responding to touch or sound instead. For instance, Some blind people develop advanced hearing and echolocation. They navigate using tongue clicks, much like bats. Others read using braille, where touch actually activates parts of the brain normally used for vision, typically dedicated to processing visual data. It's a striking example of neuroplasticity, the brain's amazing capacity to adapt through experience. So while vision dominates for many of us, it doesn't operate in isolation. It's one part of a broader sensory network. Each sense has its own crucial role, and when one is missing, the others often step up. Still, we live in a world overwhelmingly tailored for sight. From stoplights to warning signs, from digital screens to body language. Our lives depend heavily on visual signals. This reliance tends to sideline our other senses. Not because they're less vital, but because they're less obvious. We also tend to overestimate the truth of what we see. Consider how easily we're misled by illusions, deepfakes, sleight of hand, or Hollywood tricks. We assume what's visible must be real. But vision, like all senses, is filtered through a mind full of assumptions and biases. Yet when vision functions well, it's nothing short of remarkable. It's swift, vivid, layered with emotion and clarity. In mere milliseconds, we can recognize a familiar face, notice motion off to the side, or observe tiny shifts in light and shade. Sight lets us witness art, landscapes, or loving expressions and feel deep emotion. But it's important to remember that the rest of the senses aren't passive bystanders. They're fully engaged in shaping how we experience the world. Touch lets you sense a breeze. Hearing brings in melodies and laughter. Smell anchors memory to emotion. Taste delivers both pleasure and warning. Altogether, these senses craft a layered, complex narrative of daily life. Perhaps vision is the most celebrated sense. But that might be more about reputation than superiority. Maybe it just benefits from better marketing. A few extra metaphors, a central place in our design thinking, and the spotlight. Ultimately, though, it's not about deciding which sense is best. It's about realizing how rich and immersive our combined sensory world really is. Sight may lead the parade, but the others are always close, enriching every moment with context and nuance. And as your eyes begin to close and the room darkens into evening stillness, the other senses gently rise. The feel of your blanket, the nighttime hush, the subtle scent of dusk. Vision has had its turn. Now let the rest step into the scene. Color, for instance, is a fascinating phenomenon. It seems so absolute. Red strawberries, blue skies, green fields, clear and vibrant. But color doesn't exist as a standalone thing in the world. You won't find particles of blue floating in space. Instead, color is a trick of perception. A brilliant illusion your mind invents without effort. Let's begin at the core. What we call light is actually waves of electromagnetic energy. These waves vary in length. Some are long and slow, others tight and fast. The narrow range we can detect with our eyes is called the visible spectrum. It spans wavelengths between roughly 400 and 700 nanometers. A tiny slice of a much broader continuum stretching from gamma to radio waves. When light strikes an object, some of it is absorbed and the rest is reflected. That reflected portion enters your eyes, passes through the cornea and lens, and lands on the retina, the light-sensitive layer in the back. There, cone cells, the photoreceptors tuned to color, spring into action. Humans have 3 types of cones, each most sensitive to a different wavelength band, commonly labeled red, green, and blue, though their sensitivities overlap. So when you see a yellow banana, it's not from a yellow cone. Instead, both red and green cones activate in a specific ratio. And your brain decodes that combined signal as yellow. It's kind of like creating artwork in your brain, only instead of paints and palettes, you're working with nerve signals and wavelengths. This process is known as trichromatic vision, and it's what lets us perceive millions of hues. But not everyone sees those colors the same way. Some individuals experience color vision deficiencies, often referred to as color blindness. This usually occurs when one of the 3 cone types is absent or functions differently than usual. The most frequent version is red-green color blindness, which causes trouble distinguishing certain tones of red and green. And no, it doesn't mean their world is in grayscale. It's more like watching TV with the color balance slightly off and no way to reset it. What's especially fascinating is that animals don't necessarily see colors the way we do. In fact, many perceive entirely different visual realities. Take dogs, for instance. People often say they're colorblind. But that's an oversimplification. Dogs have 2 cone types instead of 3, which likely means they see mostly blues and yellows. Their color palette is reduced, not erased. They might not notice your neon sneakers, but they'd sure remember how they smell. Now let's talk birds. Many bird species are tetrachromats. They have 4 types of cones. Alongside red, green, and blue, they can also detect ultraviolet light. To them, the world appears bathed in shades that are invisible to us. Flowers blaze with UV designs. Feathers glimmer in subtle ultraviolet highlights. Berries stand out with signals hidden from human view. What seems dull to us may glow like neon graffiti to a bird's eyes. And if birds seem amazing, wait until you hear about the true champion of colorful sight. The mantis shrimp. This tiny, aggressive marine creature boasts up to 16 distinct photoreceptor types. That's over 5 times more than we have. But here's the catch. Scientists aren't entirely sure how the mantis shrimp interprets all that data. Instead of mixing colors like we do, it may process each wavelength individually, like a barcode scanner. So it's not necessarily about seeing more shades. It might just react super fast to specific colors. The mantis shrimp is proof that evolution often optimizes for survival, not aesthetics. Even when it creates something wildly vibrant. Back on dry land, our sense of color isn't influenced by wavelength alone. Surroundings play a huge role. For example, place a gray square on a white background. It appears darker. Put that same gray square on black, and suddenly, it looks lighter. Your brain isn't just receiving color. It's interpreting it based on contrast and context influenced by contrast, shading, and context. This is why visual illusions can be so confounding. You're not observing objective reality but rather your brain's interpretation of it. The most well-known example in recent years? The dress from 2015. A simple photograph sparked intense global debate. Some viewers swore the dress was white and gold. Others were adamant it was blue and black. The reason? People made different assumptions about the lighting in the photo. Some believed it was under shadow, while others saw it as brightly lit. And that influenced how their brains corrected for lighting. The takeaway: your brain constantly interprets light in context. It doesn't just read wavelengths, it decodes meaning from them using memory, setting, and assumptions. This kind of perception can even be shaped by language and culture. Different languages divide the color spectrum in unique ways. Some have fewer basic color terms, others more. For example, in Russian, light blue and dark blue are treated as completely distinct base colors. There's no single word for blue, the way English uses it. And this linguistic split affects perception. Russian speakers can distinguish those shades faster than English speakers. Research shows culture also shapes which colors we tend to prefer. Across many cultures, blue and green are generally the favorites, while yellow often ranks low. But why these preferences exist isn't entirely clear. It might be evolutionary, environmental, or social conditioning. Perhaps people are drawn to the calming presence of sky and foliage, while yellow might be unfairly linked with caution signs or rotting food. Apologies to lemons. And then there's how color affects our emotions. Designers and artists have always used this to their advantage. Warm tones like red and orange evoke excitement or intensity. Cool hues like green and blue tend to calm or relax. That's why spas lean into blues and fast food places often use reds and yellows. Consciously or not, color plays a big role in shaping our moods. Color also ties closely to memory and personal moments. The paint in your childhood room, what someone wore on a special occasion, the sky's color. Before a thunderstorm. These colors linger, not just visually but emotionally. And yet, for all its impact, we rarely question color's strangeness. It isn't a physical trait of objects, it's a brain-generated experience. What we see as green isn't out there floating in space. It's simply light at around 530 nanometers hitting your retina. Your cones respond, your brain interprets the signal, and voila, green. And therein lies the wonder. Your brain takes streams of raw light and turns them into a vivid, emotional reality. Every color you see is the result of photons bouncing off matter and a neural guesswork that feels completely real. So next time you catch a rainbow, browse art, or find a shirt that matches your eyes, remember, you're engaging with a brilliant illusion, one shared by nearly everyone around you. Entirely constructed in your mind yet feeling undeniably real, and as the day fades and your eyes begin to close, let the day's colors dissolve into dreams. Those hues still linger, even behind shut eyelids, memories of moments, people, and brilliant skies. Darkness doesn't erase color, it simply pauses it, waiting patiently for the light's return. Have you ever stared at an optical illusion and felt like your brain was having a bit of fun at your expense? Maybe you've seen lines that seem tilted but are perfectly straight, or images that appear to move despite being static. These odd moments remind us that our perception doesn't always match reality. Welcome to the peculiar world of visual illusions, where even a brilliant brain sometimes makes comical mistakes. Let's start simple, straight lines. One of the most well-known illusions is the Muller-Lyer illusion. Picture two identical lines, one with arrow tails pointing outward and the other with arrowheads pointing inward. Though the lines are the same length, the one with outward tails appears longer. Your brain interprets those arrow shapes as cues about depth and adjusts what you perceive. Both lines are flat, but your visual system automatically adds imaginary depth. That's a major theme in many illusions, your brain trying to make sense of incomplete or unclear information. It relies on patterns, previous knowledge, and educated guesses to fill the blanks. This works great most of the time, but sometimes it creates what can only be described as delightful visual nonsense. Take the Knizia triangle, for instance, a famous illusion involving three Pac-Man-shaped figures. When arranged just right, they make your brain see a white triangle that doesn't actually exist. There are no outlines or borders, just hints. Yet your mind confidently invents the triangle and treats it as if it's real. You might even perceive that ghost triangle as brighter than the background, despite nothing being different. This happens because your brain isn't just concerned with raw visuals, it's focused on meaning. It searches for shapes, patterns, and connections to help you understand what you're seeing. It wants to build a logical world, even if that means making up a few shapes now and then. This brings us to a fascinating concept called visual completion, the brain's talent for filling in missing pieces. You use it all the time without realizing it. When someone blocks part of a tree, you don't assume the tree's been chopped. You know it continues behind them. You don't have to reason it out, it just happens. Even your blind spot, the part of your retina where the optic nerve exits and no light is detected, is seamlessly filled in. You're not aware of it because your brain constantly patches it with nearby details. It edits so smoothly you never notice. But every now and then, that editing goes overboard. Take the motion after effect, better known as the waterfall illusion. If you focus on something that moves, like a stream or fast-scrolling text, for about half a minute, then glance at something still, the still object will seem to drift in the opposite direction. What's happening is that your brain's motion-sensing neurons are worn out. They've been working overtime to follow the movement, and once it stops, the fresher neurons tuned to the opposite direction kick in briefly. This causes your brain to mistakenly think motion is still happening. It's as if it says, "We've been going left so long, now we must be drifting right." This effect is known as the motion after effect. Another strange case is illusory motion, where static pictures appear to move. Designs using clever contrasts and repeating elements can give the illusion of spinning or pulsing. This isn't due to eye movement, but the brain trying to process conflicting signals. Some of these images are so convincing they can cause real disorientation, even though the image is totally still. What's fascinating is how widespread these illusions are. People from all backgrounds and cultures fall for them in exactly the same way. This tells us that the mental shortcuts your brain uses to interpret the world are deeply ingrained. Evolution has fine-tuned perception to prioritize quick, useful responses over perfect accuracy. After all, in a survival situation, spotting movement quickly could mean the difference between danger and safety. So occasional visual slip-ups are worth the trade-off. But illusions aren't just quirky brain tricks, they've inspired creative fields too. Artists and designers have long taken advantage of these effects to direct focus or stir emotion. Consider how perspective works in classical art. Just a few lines or shadows can turn a flat image into a vast landscape. During the Renaissance, artists like Leonardo da Vinci mastered these principles, creating immersive depth in their paintings. Similarly, architects use optical tricks to influence how we experience space. Slightly narrowing columns can appear more harmonious. Walls that slant inward make buildings look taller. Even in home decor, using specific colors or lights can alter how spacious or cozy a room feels. Whether you realize it or not, your eyes are constantly being steered and subtly deceived. And nowhere is this more apparent than in stage magic. Magicians rely on your visual assumptions. Sleight of hand works by drawing your attention to one area while the real action happens elsewhere. Your eyes can only process a limited zone at once, and your brain fills in the rest. A magician's skill lies in understanding what you're seeing and what you're not. Fascinatingly, some illusions don't even rely on actual sight. Consider phantom limb syndrome, a phenomenon experienced by certain individuals. Some individuals who've lost a limb still feel its presence, and sometimes they can vividly visualize it. In certain treatments, like mirror therapy, a mirror is positioned to reflect the remaining limb, tricking the brain into seeing two. This visual illusion can reduce pain or assist in retraining the brain's signals. It's a striking demonstration of vision's power, not just to decode the external world, but to shape internal experience. This same creative force of the mind also explains pareidolia, our habit of seeing familiar forms where none exist. Most commonly, we see faces, the man in the moon, expressions in clouds, or eyes and a mouth in burned toast. Your brain is so finely tuned to detect faces that it sometimes invents them where they shouldn't be. This isn't a bug, it's your brain being cautious. Evolutionarily speaking, it's safer to wrongly assume that a rustling bush is a predator than to miss a lurking threat entirely. Your mind's habit of completing images, imagining motion, or filling in gaps is more than a quirky trick. It shows that perception is active, not passive. You're not a bystander just watching the world like a camera, you're a creator shaping what you see. And this creative power goes far beyond illusions. You tap into it while dreaming, remembering, or even imagining. The same neural tools that help you recognize faces and read books also let you invent a fantasy world or picture your favorite dessert. The line between what's real and what's perceived is thinner than you'd expect. Light enters the eye, sure, but what happens next is a tangled interplay of neurons, interpretations, and mental shortcuts. So the next time a visual illusion tricks you or you spot a face in the floor tiles, don't blame your brain. It's simply doing its best, finding order in randomness, structure in chaos. And if it occasionally inserts a shape that isn't really there, at least it keeps your world more entertaining. As you begin to drift off and the edges of reality blur, maybe you'll carry a bit of that playful perception with you. Perhaps the darkness in your room will seem more mysterious, or the patterns on your ceiling will appear more alive. And if your dreams become filled with impossible colors or shifting shapes, know they're not coming from some outside source. They're created by you, woven together by your extraordinary imagination. Now picture a powerful memory, maybe it's a familiar face, or a seaside you once walked along. You can probably recall the curling waves, the sparkle of sunlight on water, or the distant hills on the horizon. You're seeing it not with your eyes, but through a deeper sense, an inner screen, a private theater. This astonishing gift to visualize the unseen is one of the most captivating aspects of being human. We refer to this ability as mental imagery. It lets us remember, imagine, and even invent scenes entirely in our minds. It's like owning a private movie screen inside your head, no admission required. What's truly remarkable is that when you visualize something mentally, your brain activates many of the same areas it does when you see it. Research using fMRI scans has revealed that picturing an object lights up the visual cortex, particularly the early visual areas like V1 and V2. It's not quite as vivid as real perception, but the overlap is clear and measurable. Your brain doesn't always separate imagined visuals from actual ones. This overlap helps explain why dreams can feel both surreal and lifelike. When you fall asleep, the brain ramps up activity, even though your body stays largely immobilized so you don't physically act out what you dream. Yet your mind remains intensely active, crafting visual scenes out of thin air. Characters, landscapes, emotions, and bizarre storylines unfold while your eyes are shut. For many people, dreams appear with such clarity they rival waking life, and sometimes exceed it. And just like when awake, your brain serves as director, set designer, lighting tech, and scriptwriter all at once. It produces the colors, the settings, the action, and it all happens without conscious planning. Dreams show us that vision doesn't require real light. The mind can create it. It can generate faces, spaces, shadows, and symbols using only internal processes. And here's something unusual. Not everyone experiences mental imagery the same way. Some people have a condition called aphantasia, meaning they're unable to form mental pictures. Ask them to visualize an apple, and while they understand what it is, they can't see it in their mind's eye. This isn't due to a lack of creativity or intellect, it's just a different neural setup. Those with aphantasia often rely more on other senses or abstract thought to represent concepts. Many don't even realize their experience is different until someone asks them to picture a sunset or ocean, and they reply, "Wait, you can see it?" On the other hand, some individuals have incredibly vivid inner vision. For them, imagining something is nearly identical to actual sight. They can picture scenes, colors, and textures effortlessly. This heightened imagery is often found in highly creative fields like illustration, architecture, and writing. But there's no ideal way to imagine. Our mental styles are wonderfully varied. Memory also plays a critical role in this inner visualization. When you recall the layout of your childhood home or the smile of a favorite teacher, your brain reassembles pieces of old sensory input. But these memories aren't stored like pictures in a photo album. They're scattered fragments distributed across various brain areas. The visual cortex, the hippocampus, which handles memory, and parts of the frontal lobe work together to reconstruct these moments. The final mental image might not be exact, but it often feels right. And in many ways, how accurate it is doesn't matter as much as how it resonates with you. Because mental images are shaped by emotion, context, and personal experience. They're vivid snapshots of what meant something to you. Not just what was there. Curiously, visual memory can actually be strengthened with practice. Competitors in memory championships often rely on a technique called the method of loci, or memory palace. This ancient method involves mentally walking through a familiar location, like your house or a favorite street, and mentally placing pieces of information at different spots along the way. Later, by retracing your mental steps, you can recall those details with surprising accuracy. This approach taps into the brain's strong connection between visual and spatial memory, turning abstract facts into tangible scenes. But visualization isn't only for remembering, it's also used to prepare. Athletes, for instance, regularly use mental rehearsal as part of their training. An Olympic skier might mentally run through every curve of a course before a race. A tennis player might picture their serve in slow motion, down to the precise angle and speed. This kind of visualization activates the same brain regions as physical movement, helping reinforce motor memory and boost confidence. It's essentially a training session without any physical motion. This principle extends to musicians, painters, even public speakers. Picturing yourself succeeding at a task can prime your brain to perform better in real life. It's a kind of neurological dress rehearsal. The more clearly you can visualize success, the more prepared your mind becomes. But not all mental imagery is helpful or voluntary. Some individuals experience intrusive visual thoughts, disturbing or unwanted mental images that appear suddenly and without warning. These can be linked to disorders like PTSD or OCD, serving as a reminder that our inner vision isn't always in our control. And then there are hallucinations, experiences of seeing things that aren't there at all. Unlike regular imagination, which is usually recognized as fictional, hallucinations feel completely real to the person experiencing them. They might be visual, auditory, or even involve physical sensations. One striking example is Charles Bonnet syndrome, in which people who have lost their vision begin seeing vivid and detailed hallucinations. With real visual input gone, their brains begin generating content on their own. Often, these images aren't frightening. Some people report seeing faces, landscapes, or intricate patterns. But they highlight an important point. So much of what we think of as vision is built inside the mind. Even in everyday life, that boundary between perception and imagination can blur. Take déjà vu, for example. It's the eerie sensation that you've lived a moment before. Scientists think it may stem from a glitch in the memory system, where the brain misidentifies the present as a familiar memory. In that instant, the now feels like the past, and it's both confusing and captivating. And then there's creativity, the highest expression of the visual imagination. Artists dream up new places, creatures, and feelings and give them visual form. Writers describe entire worlds and characters that exist only in their thoughts. Designers envision products and structures long before they're ever made. It's this kind of mental vision, the ability to see what isn't there yet, that drives so much of human progress. From ancient cave art to interplanetary exploration, imagination always leads the way. In this sense, vision is about more than just perceiving the world as it is. It's about picturing what it could become. And that may be vision's most magical trait, not just its detail or depth, but its capacity to inspire awe. Even when your eyes are shut, your inner world keeps glowing. Memories, daydreams, and future plans continue to flicker like lights on a screen. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift off, remember, the show's not over. Your mind may be sketching old memories, building new places, or spinning scenes made of light and motion. Your eyes may rest, but imagination carries on, quietly and endlessly. Our eyes, after all, are not just tools for seeing, they're gateways to entire worlds, from morning's first blink to the closing scenes of dreams. They're always working, adjusting focus, tracking movement, and decoding light signals. But like any sophisticated system, the eyes are delicate, and when something malfunctions, it can alter your entire view of the world. Let's begin with the most frequent culprits, refractive errors. These are the most widespread eye conditions and include issues like nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism. Nearsightedness, or myopia, makes nearby objects appear sharp while distant ones become blurry. This occurs when the eyeball is elongated or the cornea curves too steeply, causing light to focus in front of the retina rather than directly on it. Farsightedness, known as hyperopia, has the opposite effect. You can see faraway objects clearly, but reading or close work becomes a struggle. Here, the eyeball may be too short or the cornea not curved enough, pushing the light focus behind the retina. Astigmatism is a little different, caused by an uneven curvature of the cornea or lens. Think of it more as a rugby ball than a soccer ball, leading to scattered light that distorts vision at all ranges. It's a bit like trying to read through a glass of rippling water. These conditions are usually treatable with corrective lenses, contacts, or surgical procedures like LASIK. These solutions help bend incoming light properly so it lands precisely on the retina, resulting in sharper vision. But some vision problems go deeper, affecting the inner workings of the eye. Consider cataracts, for instance, a condition where the eye's lens, which should be clear, turns cloudy. It's like trying to peer through frosted glass. Images appear hazy, dull, or yellowed. Cataracts often develop slowly with age but can also be triggered by trauma, medication, or systemic diseases like diabetes. Luckily, cataract surgery is one of the safest and most routine procedures in healthcare. It involves replacing the cloudy lens with a clear artificial one, often restoring vision almost instantly. Then there's glaucoma, a group of disorders that damage the optic nerve, typically due to elevated pressure inside the eye. It's often dubbed the silent thief of sight, because it can advance undetected until major vision is already lost. The root cause lies in fluid buildup, aqueous humor that doesn't drain as it should, creating harmful pressure. Over time, this pressure damages the optic nerve, the vital pathway for transmitting visual signals to the brain. If not treated, glaucoma can lead to irreversible blindness. This is why regular eye checkups become critical, especially with age. Early diagnosis can save sight through pressure-controlling medications or surgery. Another major issue is macular degeneration, particularly the age-related kind, or AMD. The macula is a tiny but critical part of the retina responsible for sharp, central vision, used when reading, driving, or identifying faces. In AMD, this region deteriorates, leading to blurriness or dark spots in the center of vision. Dry AMD is the more common type and develops gradually, while wet AMD, caused by abnormal blood vessel growth beneath the retina, can cause sudden, severe vision loss. Though there's no definitive cure, certain treatments may slow its advance. Prescription medications, a nutrient-rich diet with leafy greens, and not smoking all contribute to preserving eye health. Another rare but serious disorder is retinitis pigmentosa, a genetic condition that slowly damages the retina. It primarily affects peripheral and night vision, eventually narrowing sight into tunnel vision and, in some cases, full blindness. Since it's hereditary, early screening and genetic counseling are key, especially in families where it runs. However, not all visual impairment stems from damage within the eye. Sometimes, the problem lies in the brain's ability to process what the eyes send. One such condition is cortical visual impairment, or CVI, a neurological issue where the visual pathways or brain centers responsible for vision don't function correctly. In cases of cortical visual impairment, the eyes themselves work fine, but the brain struggles to interpret what they're seeing. This often results from trauma, stroke, or developmental conditions that affect visual processing centers in the brain. Someone with CVI might have perfect eye health, yet still be unable to comprehend what they're looking at. Then there are sudden, sometimes alarming shifts in vision, like flashes, floaters, or partial visual loss. A major cause could be retinal detachment, where the retina separates from the back of the eye. This is an urgent emergency, and without rapid medical care, it can lead to irreversible blindness. Warning signs include sudden flashes of light, a shower of floaters, or the sensation of a shadow or curtain falling across your field of view. If any of these symptoms occur, it's not a moment to wait, it's a signal to contact an eye specialist immediately. Even floaters, those tiny drifting specks you see in your vision, deserve attention. They're usually caused by bits of collagen in the vitreous gel inside the eye. Floaters are quite common, especially with age, and are typically harmless. However, if you notice a sudden spike in floaters or see light flashes, it could point to a retinal tear or more serious issue. And since we're discussing vision loss, it's important to touch on blindness, a condition that encompasses a broad spectrum of visual experiences. Some individuals are completely blind with no perception of light, while others may retain partial or functional vision in limited ways. Blindness can be congenital, meaning present at birth, or it can develop later from injury, illness, or aging. But one of the most powerful truths about blindness is this: it doesn't mean life stops. People who are blind often develop extraordinary ways to interact with the world. Some hone their hearing or touch to remarkable levels, while others use echolocation, making clicks with their mouths and listening to the echoes bounce off surfaces to understand their surroundings. This might sound like science fiction, but it's real and surprisingly accurate. Technology, too, has opened up new possibilities. Screen readers convert digital text into audio, while refreshable braille devices allow for tactile reading. Experimental tech like bionic eyes and retinal implants are under development, aiming to restore partial sight or offer sensory feedback to those with some remaining vision. Even everyday tools like magnifiers, high-contrast displays, or smartphone apps designed for navigation can vastly improve independence. Guide dogs also remain vital allies, not just for navigation, but as deeply loyal companions offering emotional comfort as well. And it's fascinating to know that blindness doesn't erase the ability to visualize. Many blind individuals, particularly those who lost sight later in life, continue to experience detailed mental imagery. They can still picture people, places, and colors, even without visual input. This remarkable adaptability reflects the brain's capacity for change, known as neuroplasticity. When one sense is lost, others often grow stronger to fill the gap. Sometimes, the visual cortex itself gets repurposed to process other sensory inputs like touch or sound. While this can't fully replace vision, it highlights just how astonishingly flexible and resilient the human brain can be. We truly are remarkable beings, and though the eye is a masterpiece of biology, it's not indestructible. It can blur, tear, misalign, or fail, but with consistent care, protective habits, and timely attention, many eye issues can be treated or even avoided. So make it a point to take screen breaks, nourish your body with leafy greens, shield your eyes with sunglasses in bright light, and never skip your routine eye checkups. Catching problems early greatly improves your chances of maintaining the fragile, miraculous gift of sight. And now, as your own eyelids begin to lower and the world softens into a gentle haze, let your eyes rest. They've spent the day blinking, adjusting, focusing, translating, working tirelessly to help you see. They've earned this pause, and so have you. Now imagine experiencing the world through an entirely different set of lenses, not metaphorically, but literally. What if, instead of perceiving colors the way you do, you saw the world in ultraviolet or infrared? What if motion appeared as sudden flashes of energy, or if surfaces shimmered with patterns invisible to human eyes? For many creatures, that's not a sci-fi scenario, it's reality. Humans often assume our visual experience is universal, but it's just one model among many. Evolution has customized vision in astonishing ways, tailoring eyes to match habitats, survival needs, and unique behaviors. And some of these adaptations are truly breathtaking. Take the mantis shrimp, often crowned the visual superhero of the animal world. It may resemble a psychedelic lobster living in sunlit tropical waters, but its superpower isn't just its punch, though it's strong enough to shatter glass. What really makes it extraordinary is its sight. Humans have 3 cone cells in our eyes to detect color: red, green, and blue. The mantis shrimp has up to 16, including receptors that can detect ultraviolet and polarized light, spectrums we humans can't even imagine. This crustacean doesn't just see more colors, it sees entirely different types of light. Its brain may not blend these colors the same way ours does. In fact, it may use a simplified but rapid-fire color system that favors speed over nuance. From vibrant coral reefs, we ascend into the skies where birds have their own visual edge. Especially those that soar by day, daylight flyers often possess some of the sharpest vision on the planet. Their eyes are disproportionately large, packed densely with cone cells, and many species have 4 distinct cones rather than 3. This gives birds access to ultraviolet light, adding an entire hidden spectrum to their color palette. What looks like a common bird to us, say, a blue tit, might appear radiant and patterned under UV light, almost like it's wearing secret fashion. These vivid UV markings help with courtship, boundary setting, and species recognition. And it doesn't stop there. Many flowers also have ultraviolet patterns on their petals. To the human eye, they may look ordinary, but to bees, they're glowing roadmaps guiding them directly to nectar. Bees don't perceive red the way we do, but they excel at spotting UV patterns. Many plants have evolved specifically to stand out in the visual spectrum of bees. To them, flowers aren't just beautiful, they're functionally lit up with cues and instructions invisible to us. What we call beauty, they experience as purpose. Then there are creatures whose vision is tuned not to color, but to light sensitivity, motion, or low-light navigation. Take cats, for instance. Their eyes are rich in rod cells, which are highly responsive to dim light. That's why your cat can dash across the room at midnight with perfect precision, while you stumble over the furniture. They also possess a structure called the tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the retina that bounces incoming light back through the eye. This gives light a second chance to be absorbed, enhancing night vision and creating that eerie glowing eye effect in the dark. Owls take this adaptation to the next level. Their massive eyes are made for nocturnal hunting. Because their eyes are so large, they can't swivel in their sockets like ours do. Instead, owls compensate with extremely flexible necks that can rotate up to 270 degrees. Their heightened light sensitivity enables them to spot the tiniest movement, like a mouse rustling in the grass, under nearly pitch-black skies. Snakes, meanwhile, follow a completely different path. Some species, such as pit vipers and boas, have developed infrared vision. They possess pit organs near their snouts that detect infrared radiation, essentially letting them see heat. These aren't traditional eyes, but the snake's brain interprets the signals visually, layering heat detection over regular sight. To a snake, a warm-blooded mouse in the dark glows like a beacon, an unmistakable sign that dinner is near. Then there are bats, often thought to be blind, but in truth, many have surprisingly decent night vision. Yet their real edge comes from echolocation, a sound-based navigation system. Bats emit rapid high-frequency calls and analyze the echoes that bounce back, helping them pinpoint flying insects with astonishing precision. While not visual in the classic sense, echolocation fulfills the same function, navigating space, locating prey, and staying oriented. It's a powerful reminder that seeing doesn't always involve eyes. And some animals stretch the definition of vision in beautifully bizarre ways. Chameleons, for example, can move their eyes independently of one another. One eye can scan a bug on the left, while the other keeps watch on the right, allowing for a full panoramic view. When they strike, their eyes align to judge distance, and out whips the tongue, too fast for human eyes to track. Now consider the horseshoe crab, an ancient survivor with a total of 10 eyes. Some are perched atop its shell, others near its mouth, and a few more scattered across its body. Its sight isn't sharp, but it's finely tuned to detect changes in light and movement, perfect for navigating murky coastal waters. Even among humans, visual perception isn't uniform. Some people, typically women, are tetrachromats. They possess a fourth type of cone cell, enabling them to perceive subtle color distinctions the rest of us completely miss. A color gradient that looks smooth to most can seem incredibly detailed to a tetrachromat. It's like having a hidden superpower, quiet, invisible, but real. On the flip side, some people are colorblind, a difference often viewed as a deficit. Yet studies suggest they may actually outperform others when it comes to spotting camouflage in nature. There's hardly ever a single perfect way to see, only what works best in a specific setting. So what does that tell us? It shows that vision isn't a one-size-fits-all experience. It's shaped by biology, by the world around us, and by need. We might be impressed by the sharpness or color in our own vision, but it's only one interpretation among many. For some animals, sight is all about accuracy, detecting sharp edges and chasing down fast prey. For others, it's about light sensitivity, sensing even the slightest motion in pitch-black darkness. Some creatures view ultraviolet, some detect infrared, others navigate through sound or trace heat. Evolution has invented countless visual systems, each designed for a distinct lifestyle, habitat, or challenge. And that may be the most awe-inspiring truth of all, that what we call reality is far more layered and complex than we can ever truly see. Our eyes only catch a narrow slice of the electromagnetic spectrum, and even in that slim portion, everything we see is filtered by our biology and interpreted by the brain. But even with those limits, we still find wonder. We admire sunsets, identify loved ones, enjoy paintings, follow stories, and spot distant stars. Our eyes help us discover, create, and learn, and though we can't view a bee's ultraviolet runway or a snake's heat signature, we can imagine them, explore their mechanics, simulate their effect, and be inspired by them. And now, as your own vision slows and the room gently fades into nighttime stillness, remember that your eyesight, so ordinary, so human, is merely one chapter in the vast book of seeing. For most of human history, our sight was all we had. If something was too tiny, too far away, or too faint, we simply couldn't see it. It remained hidden from view beyond the edge of natural perception. But humans are endlessly curious and driven to expand our senses. We've spent lifetimes building ways to overcome biology. We've invented tools to zoom in on the invisible and peer far into the cosmos to repair flaws and even restore lost vision. And one of the earliest tools to do that is something most of us know well: glasses. Eyeglasses have helped people see clearly for more than 7 centuries. The first visual aid was the reading stone, a rounded glass lens placed on text to enlarge the letters. These appeared as early as the 800s, perhaps earlier. They weren't elegant and definitely not designer, but they served their purpose. Then came the 1200s, when the first wearable glasses emerged in Europe. 2 convex lenses held in wood or leather frames, usually balanced on the nose or held in place by hand. They were mostly used for presbyopia, the natural decline in near vision that comes with age. Over time, these humble tools evolved from rare accessories to essential items. Today, over 4 billion people use them. That's more than half of everyone on Earth. Whether it's nearsightedness, farsightedness, astigmatism, or aging eyes, lenses bend light just right to bring the world into focus onto the retina, restoring crisp, focused vision once again. Then there are contact lenses, small, soft discs that sit directly on the eye's surface. While the concept dates back to the late 1800s, it wasn't until the 1970s that modern soft contacts became widely accessible. For many, they're a more practical or stylish alternative to glasses. Some are even tinted, not for vision, but to change or enhance eye color, a reminder that appearance and sight often go hand in hand. But what if you prefer neither glasses nor contacts? That's where surgical solutions come into play. Refractive surgeries like LASIK, short for laser-assisted in situ keratomileusis, offer another route. The name sounds futuristic, but today LASIK is a quick outpatient procedure that reshapes the cornea with pinpoint laser precision. This fine-tuning lets light hit the retina more accurately, bringing clearer vision, sometimes in just minutes. The entire process takes about 15 minutes, and many people see immediate improvements. It's not suitable for everyone, but for millions, it has completely transformed how they see the world. And this is only the beginning, because the most groundbreaking work in vision correction goes far beyond glasses or lasers. We're entering the era of bionics and neurotechnology, where science and machines blend with biology. In recent years, researchers have created devices designed not just to enhance vision, but to restore it where it's been lost entirely. One of the most promising innovations is the retinal implant, often dubbed the bionic eye. A tiny grid of electrodes is surgically implanted in the retina, connected to a camera mounted on a special pair of glasses. The camera captures images, which are converted into electrical signals that stimulate the surviving retinal cells. The result isn't normal vision, but it can provide basic light detection, outlines, and motion awareness. Systems like the Argus II were among the first in this space, not perfect, but powerful. For those who've spent years in darkness, being able to navigate a room or see a doorway is nothing short of revolutionary. Another direction in this research targets the optic nerve, or bypasses the eye entirely by stimulating the brain's visual cortex. These techniques are more invasive but offer hope for those with severe eye or nerve damage. In one experimental device, a grid of electrodes is laid directly on the brain, delivering light signals that the brain can interpret. These signals don't create full images, yet, but flashes of light called phosphenes. Scientists are working toward expanding those flashes into richer, more meaningful visual information. And speaking of expanding what we can see, let's rewind to another historic leap: the invention of the microscope. Before microscopes, reality was divided: what we could see and what was forever hidden. But in the 1600s, pioneers like Antony van Leeuwenhoek and Robert Hooke shattered that limit. Peering into droplets of water and slivers of cork, they uncovered an unseen world teeming with life. Cells, bacteria, capillaries, all completely invisible to the naked eye, suddenly came into view. Modern microscopes now resolve details at the molecular and even atomic level. Electron microscopes don't even use light. They fire beams of electrons, which reveal structures in stunning detail. Thanks to these instruments, we've observed viruses, nanostructures, and the microscopic machinery of life. And while microscopes opened the world within, telescopes turned our eyes to the universe beyond. Galileo's early telescope in the 1600s revealed Jupiter's moons, challenging centuries of Earth-centered thinking. And since then, our cosmic vision has only sharpened. In 1990, NASA launched the Hubble Space Telescope into orbit, and it began sending back images of galaxies. Some so far away, their light had traveled billions of years to reach us, and today, the James Webb Space Telescope is taking us even deeper into the cosmos, collecting light from the earliest stars and galaxies. These instruments do more than zoom in. They convert the invisible into the visible. From infrared and ultraviolet to radio waves, telescopes decode these signals and turn them into stunning visuals. They help us perceive things far beyond our natural limits, reshaping how we view space, time, and our place in the universe. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we rely on visual tools in our everyday lives. What was once rare and expensive, like cameras, is now a standard feature in nearly every smartphone. We use them to document memories, watch animals in the wild, examine mechanical parts, and create digital art. Thermal imaging helps firefighters see through dense smoke. Night vision gives military personnel the ability to move in complete darkness. In the medical field, tools like MRIs, CT scans, and ultrasounds give doctors a detailed view inside the human body, no scalpel required. Then there's augmented reality, tech that layers digital data onto the physical world. Apps can project directions onto sidewalks, translate signs in real time, or preview furniture right in your room. The boundary between seeing and knowing is beginning to dissolve. A new type of vision is emerging, interactive, customizable, and rich with digital overlays. As innovation pushes forward, we may gain vision far beyond natural capacity. Glasses that autofocus, lenses that adapt instantly to lighting, even implants that offer infrared sight. What once lived in science fiction is now becoming reality. But as we enhance our sight, it's important to honor what we already have. The human eye, with its lens, retina, and cornea, is still a marvel of organic engineering. Billions of light-sensitive cells and nerves coordinate flawlessly to interpret the world at light speed. Even our best machines are still chasing the elegance of evolution's creation. So whether you're peering through prescription glasses, trying on AR goggles, or just stargazing, remember that your vision, natural or enhanced, connects you to an ancient instinct, one that has always driven humanity to explore, to discover, to reach for the unknown. And now, as darkness wraps around the room and your vision softens, know this: while technology may brighten tomorrow's darkness, tonight belongs to rest. You've seen all you need for now. Think back to the last piece of art that truly stirred you. Maybe it was a painting, its colors swirling like quiet emotion, or a film scene that lingered in your memory. Perhaps it was a photo where shadow met light in just the right way, or sunlight streaming through old stained glass, casting colors across a wooden floor. Whatever it was, your eyes were the gateway. Vision is more than function. It's a passage to meaning, culture, and beauty. Let's start with art, the most enduring partner of vision. Since prehistoric times, humans have marked surfaces, from cave walls to fabric, from stone to screen. Some of the oldest cave images ever discovered, in Spain and Indonesia, date back more than 40,000 years. These weren't just decorations, they were ways to tell stories, to reflect how people saw their world. And that's what art still is today, a lens through which someone says, "Here's how I see things." Our eyes become the first audience to every creative act. Even abstract art, which avoids straightforward meaning, engages us through sight. Color, shape, contrast, motion, our brains react to these immediately. We're wired to find patterns, to spot symmetry, to see faces even in simple dots and lines. Art taps into these ancient reflexes. At times it calms us, at others it provokes us. Visual art can do both. Take color theory, for example, a whole discipline dedicated to how hues influence perception. Red often feels intense or passionate, blue brings a sense of peace, and yellow tends to feel joyful or draw the eye. These reactions aren't arbitrary, they're shaped by both nature and culture. For generations, artists have tapped into these effects to stir emotions, heighten drama, or evoke tranquility. And then there's perspective, the method that transformed Western art during the Renaissance. Before its development, images were typically flat and symbolic. But pioneers like Filippo Brunelleschi and Leonardo da Vinci explored depth through vanishing points and converging lines. They introduced a window-like realism to painting that felt immersive and lifelike. It marked a turning point, not only in art technique, but in how people perceived visual storytelling. Yet the impact of sight doesn't stop at galleries. It's a cornerstone of science too. Imagine Galileo's discoveries as he gazed through his telescope: mountains on the moon, moons orbiting Jupiter, and Venus cycling through phases. Or think of what microscopes revealed: intricate life teeming in a drop of water. In science, seeing often means understanding. Graphs, charts, and visuals are vital for decoding complex information. Whether it's a thermal image, a cell diagram, or the double helix of DNA glimpsed through X-ray diffraction. These images don't just illustrate, they deliver the heart of the discovery. Even abstract math relies on visuals to convey ideas. Fractals, spirals, and geometric proofs are clearer when seen, not just calculated. A single sketch can make a difficult concept click into place. Visualization turns the abstract into something tangible. In healthcare, sight literally saves lives. Diagnostic tools like MRIs, X-rays, and CT scans help doctors find illnesses before symptoms show. Surgeons monitor real-time images during operations. Radiologists interpret grayscale patterns that might otherwise go unnoticed. Often when someone says, "We caught it early," it really means, "We saw it early." Architecture, too, is profoundly visual. Buildings must be practical, but also aesthetically resonant. The angle of a skylight, the curve of a stairwell, the way light moves through a corridor, all are deliberate visual choices. Great architecture doesn't just function, it captivates. Even fashion, often dismissed as shallow, is a visual language of its own. What we wear reflects mood, personality, and social identity. A tailored jacket, a flowing scarf, a clash of bold prints or minimalist tones, all communicate something. It's how we shape how we're seen. And we can't leave out visual storytelling. Film, television, and gaming industries revolve entirely around the eye. Filmmakers think in visuals: framing, lighting, perspective. They guide your gaze, control your focus, and evoke emotion with every cut. A close-up shows feeling, a wide shot establishes place. Cinema speaks in sight, its grammar built from images. It's a language we all instinctively understand. We take in this visual world so effortlessly, we often forget just how deeply it shapes our perceptions. Now consider the digital age. Social platforms, streaming sites, video apps, they all revolve around visuals. Whether it's images, animations, GIFs, infographics, or emojis, the screen has become our main stage. Increasingly, communication has shifted from words to pictures. We speak in snaps and share with symbols. Memes replace sentences, reaction GIFs convey feelings, and we document life by showing, not just telling. This non-stop stream of visuals has transformed how we process and retain information. Research confirms the picture superiority effect. We recall images more easily than text. A phrase might fade, but a picture stays with us. This is why visual tools dominate classrooms, ads, and stories. They're not just decorative, they're memorable. But relying on sight has its pitfalls. Our visual instincts can mislead us. We truly do judge books by their covers, including people. We form quick opinions based on appearance and sometimes fall for unrealistic ideals. Filtered photos, flawless profiles, edited bodies. These distortions can warp self-image and fuel comparison. It's the downside of a world obsessed with the visual. Still, vision remains a vital connector. Think about eye contact. It builds trust, signals interest, expresses emotion. A single look can say what words cannot. From a sly smirk to a tearful gaze, our eyes hold a rich vocabulary. It shows that perception is active, not passive. You're not a bystander just watching the world like a camera, you're a creator shaping what you see. And this creative power goes far beyond illusions. You tap into it while dreaming, remembering, or even imagining. The same neural tools that help you recognize faces and read books also let you invent a fantasy world or picture your favorite dessert. The line between what's real and what's perceived is thinner than you'd expect. Light enters the eye, sure, but what happens next is a tangled interplay of neurons, interpretations, and mental shortcuts. So the next time a visual illusion tricks you or you spot a face in the floor tiles, don't blame your brain. It's simply doing its best, finding order in randomness, structure in chaos. And if it occasionally inserts a shape that isn't really there, at least it keeps your world more entertaining. As you begin to drift off and the edges of reality blur, maybe you'll carry a bit of that playful perception with you. Perhaps the darkness in your room will seem more mysterious, or the patterns on your ceiling will appear more alive. And if your dreams become filled with impossible colors or shifting shapes, know they're not coming from some outside source. They're created by you, woven together by your extraordinary imagination. Now picture a powerful memory. Maybe it's a familiar face, or a seaside you once walked along. You can probably recall the curling waves, the sparkle of sunlight on water, or the distant hills on the horizon. You're seeing it not with your eyes, but through a deeper sense, an inner screen, a private theater. This astonishing gift to visualize the unseen is one of the most captivating aspects of being human. We refer to this ability as mental imagery. It lets us remember, imagine, and even invent scenes entirely in our minds. It's like owning a private movie screen inside your head, no admission required. What's truly remarkable is that when you visualize something mentally, your brain activates many of the same areas it does when you see it. Research using fMRI scans has revealed that picturing an object lights up the visual cortex, particularly the early visual areas like V1 and V2. It's not quite as vivid as real perception, but the overlap is clear and measurable. Your brain doesn't always separate imagined visuals from actual ones. This overlap helps explain why dreams can feel both surreal and lifelike. When you fall asleep, the brain ramps up activity, even though your body stays largely immobilized so you don't physically act out what you dream. Yet your mind remains intensely active, crafting visual scenes out of thin air. Characters, landscapes, emotions, and bizarre storylines unfold while your eyes are shut. For many people, dreams appear with such clarity they rival waking life, and sometimes exceed it. And just like when awake, your brain serves as director, set designer, lighting tech, and scriptwriter all at once. It produces the colors, the settings, the action, and it all happens without conscious planning. Dreams show us that vision doesn't require real light. The mind can create it. It can generate faces, spaces, shadows, and symbols using only internal processes. And here's something unusual. Not everyone experiences mental imagery the same way. Some people have a condition called aphantasia, meaning they're unable to form mental pictures. Ask them to visualize an apple, and while they understand what it is, they can't see it in their mind's eye. This isn't due to a lack of creativity or intellect, it's just a different neural setup. Those with aphantasia often rely more on other senses or abstract thought to represent concepts. Many don't even realize their experience is different until someone asks them to picture a sunset or ocean, and they reply, "Wait, you can see it?" On the other hand, some individuals have incredibly vivid inner vision. For them, imagining something is nearly identical to actual sight. They can picture scenes, colors, and textures effortlessly. This heightened imagery is often found in highly creative fields like illustration, architecture, and writing. But there's no ideal way to imagine. Our mental styles are wonderfully varied. Memory also plays a critical role in this inner visualization. When you recall the layout of your childhood home or the smile of a favorite teacher, your brain reassembles pieces of old sensory input. But these memories aren't stored like pictures in a photo album. They're scattered fragments distributed across various brain areas. The visual cortex, the hippocampus, which handles memory, and parts of the frontal lobe work together to reconstruct these moments. The final mental image might not be exact, but it often feels right. And in many ways, how accurate it is doesn't matter as much as how it resonates with you. Because mental images are shaped by emotion, context, and personal experience. They're vivid snapshots of what meant something to you, not just what was there. Curiously, visual memory can actually be strengthened with practice. Competitors in memory championships often rely on a technique called the method of loci, or memory palace. This ancient method involves mentally walking through a familiar location, like your house or a favorite street, and mentally placing pieces of information at different spots along the way. Later, by retracing your mental steps, you can recall those details with surprising accuracy. This approach taps into the brain's strong connection between visual and spatial memory, turning abstract facts into tangible scenes. But visualization isn't only for remembering, it's also used to prepare. Athletes, for instance, regularly use mental rehearsal as part of their training. An Olympic skier might mentally run through every curve of a course before a race. A tennis player might picture their serve in slow motion, down to the precise angle and speed. This kind of visualization, where the brain misidentifies the present as a familiar memory. In that instant, the now feels like the past, and it's both confusing and captivating. And then there's creativity, the highest expression of the visual imagination. Artists dream up new places, creatures, and feelings and give them visual form. Writers describe entire worlds and characters that exist only in their thoughts. Designers envision products and structures long before they're ever made. It's this kind of mental vision, the ability to see what isn't there yet, that drives so much of human progress. From ancient cave art to interplanetary exploration, imagination always leads the way. In this sense, vision is about more than just perceiving the world as it is. It's about picturing what it could become. And that may be vision's most magical trait, not just its detail or depth, but its capacity to inspire awe. Even when your eyes are shut, your inner world keeps glowing. Memories, daydreams, and future plans continue to flicker like lights on a screen. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift off, remember, the show's not over. Your mind may be sketching old memories, building new places, or spinning scenes made of light and motion. Your eyes may rest, but imagination carries on, quietly and endlessly. Our eyes, after all, are not just tools for seeing, they're gateways to entire worlds, from morning's first blink to the closing scenes of dreams. They're always working, adjusting focus, tracking movement, and decoding light signals. But like any sophisticated system, the eyes are delicate, and when something malfunctions, it can alter your entire view of the world. Let's begin with the most frequent culprits, refractive errors. These are the most widespread eye conditions and include issues like nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism. Nearsightedness, or myopia, makes nearby objects appear sharp while distant ones become blurry. This occurs when the eyeball is elongated or the cornea curves too steeply, causing light to focus in front of the retina rather than directly on it. Farsightedness, known as hyperopia, has the opposite effect. You can see faraway objects clearly, but reading or close work becomes a struggle. Here, the eyeball may be too short or the cornea not curved enough, pushing the light focus behind the retina. Astigmatism is a little different, caused by an uneven curvature of the cornea or lens. Think of it more as a rugby ball than a soccer ball, leading to scattered light that distorts vision at all ranges. It's a bit like trying to read through a glass of rippling water. These conditions are usually treatable with corrective lenses, contacts, or surgical procedures like LASIK. These solutions help bend incoming light properly so it lands precisely on the retina, resulting in sharper vision. But some vision problems go deeper, affecting the inner workings of the eye. Consider cataracts, for instance, a condition where the eye's lens, which should be clear, turns cloudy. It's like trying to peer through frosted glass. Images appear hazy, dull, or yellowed. Cataracts often develop slowly with age but can also be triggered by trauma, medication, or systemic diseases like diabetes. Luckily, cataract surgery is one of the safest and most routine procedures in healthcare. It involves replacing the cloudy lens with a clear artificial one, often restoring vision almost instantly. Then there's glaucoma, a group of disorders that damage the optic nerve, typically due to elevated pressure inside the eye. It's often dubbed the silent thief of sight, because it can advance undetected until major vision is already lost. The root cause lies in fluid buildup, aqueous humor that doesn't drain as it should, creating harmful pressure. Over time, this pressure damages the optic nerve, the vital pathway for transmitting visual signals to the brain. If not treated, glaucoma can lead to irreversible blindness. This is why regular eye checkups become critical, especially with age. Early diagnosis can save sight through pressure-controlling medications or surgery. Another major issue is macular degeneration, particularly the age-related kind, or AMD. The macula is a tiny but critical part of the retina responsible for sharp, central vision, used when reading, driving, or identifying faces. In AMD, this region deteriorates, leading to blurriness or dark spots in the center of vision. Dry AMD is the more common type and develops gradually, while wet AMD, caused by abnormal blood vessel growth beneath the retina, can cause sudden, severe vision loss. Though there's no definitive cure, certain treatments may slow its advance. Prescription medications, a nutrient-rich diet with leafy greens, and not smoking all contribute to preserving eye health. Another rare but serious disorder is retinitis pigmentosa, a genetic condition that slowly damages the retina. It primarily affects peripheral and night vision, eventually narrowing sight into tunnel vision and, in some cases, full blindness. Since it's hereditary, early screening and genetic counseling are key, especially in families where it runs. However, not all visual impairment stems from damage within the eye. Sometimes, the problem lies in the brain's ability to process what the eyes send. One such condition is cortical visual impairment, or CVI, a neurological issue where the visual pathways or brain centers responsible for vision don't function correctly. In cases of cortical visual impairment, the eyes themselves work fine, but the brain struggles to interpret what they're seeing. This often results from trauma, stroke, or developmental. For those who struggle with verbal expression, the visual realm offers a more honest, intuitive language. And even those who are blind engage with visual culture. Through tactile art, descriptive audio, and tech that converts visuals into sound or touch. Museums now offer raised line images, film descriptions, and immersive guides. This isn't just about accessibility, it's about offering a fuller experience of what sight can bring. In the end, vision is more than clarity, it's connection. It ties us to one another, to ideas, to the world around us. When you admire a painting, watch sunlight spill through curtains, or track a bird in flight, you're participating in something deeply human. The act of turning light into meaning, sensation into emotion. And as your eyelids start to lower and the chaos of visuals fades into calm, let your mind hold on to today's impressions, the colors, the forms, the fleeting sights. Rest now, knowing the world will wait to be seen again tomorrow. Just because your eyes close doesn't mean the world vanishes. You still hear, feel, sense. The experience shifts but doesn't stop. For millions around the globe, that shift is permanent. Those who are blind navigate with a different sensory toolkit, not lesser, just distinct. They live by sound, texture, memory, and subtle cues that many sighted people overlook. And it begins with clearing up a common myth. Blindness doesn't always mean total darkness. Some are born without vision and have no visual memory at all. Others lose sight later in life and still recall images, colors, even visual dreams. Some can detect light and dark or spot shapes and movement. Others see nothing or only narrow glimpses. Vision loss exists on a spectrum, and every person's experience is unique. Yet what's universal is the brain's ability to adapt. When sight fades, touch sharpens, hearing strengthens, not in a supernatural way, but through real neurological change. The brain simply learns to lean more on the senses still available. And research using brain scans reveals something remarkable in people who are blind. The visual cortex, the brain's area for processing sight, doesn't simply shut down. Instead, it's reassigned to new roles responding to sound, touch, and even language. The brain doesn't waste space, it repurposes it, thinking, here's an unused area, let's make it useful. This is neuroplasticity in action, the brain's amazing ability to rewire itself in response to life experiences. It's a major reason why so many blind individuals live full, empowered, and independent lives. Not through superpowers, but through adaptation and a world that's becoming more accessible. Technology has been a game changer in this evolution. From screen readers that convert written text to audio, to braille displays that render digital words into touchable dots. Today's smartphones come with built-in voice assistance and accessibility features that once needed bulky gear. There are apps that describe your environment, read labels, identify people, and even announce colors out loud. Tools that used to be rare now fit in your pocket, bringing independence within reach. Orientation and mobility training is also vital. It teaches blind individuals how to confidently navigate the world. That includes the iconic white cane, which is far more than just a stick. It detects curbs, stairs, and textures, creating a mental layout of the surroundings. It's both an extension of awareness and a quiet message. I move differently, but I move just fine. Another essential ally is the guide dog, specially trained not just to follow directions, but to know when not to. This behavior, called intelligent disobedience, can literally be life-saving if danger is ahead. The relationship between handler and dog is built on deep trust. It's not just practical, it's emotional. But most importantly, blindness doesn't block someone from understanding or engaging with the world. Those without sight often develop a highly refined sense of spatial awareness, not by looking, but by listening, feeling, and remembering. Many even use echolocation, clicking their tongues or tapping canes and interpreting the echoes. This technique is seen in bats and dolphins, but humans can learn it too. Some blind individuals navigate busy cities, ride bicycles, and hike trails using only sound. Touch becomes a primary channel of information as well. Braille, invented by Louis Braille in the 1800s, is not a language but a tactile writing system. Each cell is made of 6 raised dots arranged in different patterns to represent letters and symbols. Fluent Braille readers glide their fingers across the lines at remarkable speed. You'll find Braille on elevator panels, drug labels, hotel doors, and restrooms, offering access through touch. Hearing also becomes more finely tuned for social and emotional awareness. Without relying on facial expressions or body language, blind individuals pick up cues through tone, pacing, and inflection. Happiness, fatigue, sarcasm. These emotions become clear through voice alone. Listening becomes deeply intentional, and conversations often more thoughtful and present. And yes, blind people dream. Those who once had vision may still picture faces, colors, and scenes. Those blind since birth dream vividly, but through other senses: sound, emotion, pressure, and even scent. The dreams are no less rich, just composed of different sensory threads. As with waking life, the mind fills in, adapts, and creates its own vivid experiences without visual input. So what is life like when sight is absent? What's it really like to live without sight? It's a bit like asking what it's like not to fly. For birds, flight is natural. For us, it's not. But we don't feel like something is missing, we just move through life differently. And it's the same with blindness. It's not about lacking something, but about experiencing the world another way. People who are blind don't live lives of absence. They live fully, with depth, joy, and meaning. In fact, blindness can bring in uncommon awareness. Less shaped by surface appearances, more centered on what matters: tone, feeling, essence. Many describe how their listening sharpens, their focus deepens, and their relationships become more grounded. Yes, challenges exist, barriers both social and physical, but these often stem from assumptions, not blindness itself. The real issue isn't the lack of sight, but the world's belief that seeing is the only valid way of being. Fortunately, that view is beginning to shift. Thanks to advocates, educators, and inclusive designers, the world is slowly becoming more welcoming. Museums are adding tactile artwork, public places are including braille maps and audio guidance. Digital spaces are adapting too, with attention to contrast, typeface, and screen reader compatibility. And perhaps most inspiring, more blind voices are being heard. Writers, musicians, scientists, teachers, and athletes are showing us that blindness is not a flaw. It's a unique way of engaging with the world. Not a loss of light, but a new source of insight. So tonight, as your eyelids fall and the light fades, reflect on this. How you understand the world isn't limited to what your eyes can take in. Your perception is built from all your senses, from touch, sound, scent, memory, and imagination. Sight is only one thread in a much broader sensory weave. And for many, the darkness that comes with closed eyes is not a stopping point. It's the beginning of a different kind of experience, quieter, deeper, just as real. So here we are, at the close of our slow journey through light and perception. We've explored the science and the mystery, the structure and the stories. How photons, nerves, and neurons can turn into sunsets, smiles, and dreams. It's fascinating, isn't it? That a simple ray of light hitting the back of your eye can give birth to an entire world. Trees, stars, shadows, and color, all flowing through that tiny optical gateway. But we've also seen that vision isn't just seeing, it's understanding. It's the union of biology and meaning, of sensory input and thoughtful reflection. And though sight is precious, it doesn't stand alone. It joins hearing, smell, touch, and taste to create the full experience of being alive. So once more, let me ask, where are you listening from right now? What time is it? How are you feeling? Maybe you found a soft spot to rest, screen dimmed, eyes closing, body relaxing. And maybe now, you see that vision, while beautiful, is just one way of knowing. One of many ways to feel wonder. If tonight's reflection helped you relax, made you curious, or simply kept you company, I'd be truly thankful if you liked the video or subscribed for more mindful moments. It helps this calm little corner grow, and lets me continue sharing quiet explorations like this. So now, go ahead and rest your eyes fully, let your breathing slow. You've taken in enough for one day. And when morning comes, the world will still be there. Ready to be seen, heard, touched, and felt all over again.